Welcome to part 4, in other words, the reflection. So I think you can see I got a lot of inspiration from Banksy, especially after he came into the news and doubled the value of a house of the couple. Second, you will be able to see a couple of images I found on the internet of his artworks. I think you can really see how he uses a lot of color and little effects like the dripping to get one picture, one item really to pop out of the image. Next, you can see I made a couple of sketches. I didn't use any color yet, but I really liked them because it gave a lot of emotion without the use of any colors. One trend you can see though in all of these sketches is that they are very modern and use a lot of straight lines. In my final sketch you see here, you can see the same pattern. It's very straight and doesn't have a lot of effects and no color, of course. But you can see I used a little effect. I'll use little movements which are also in the final product. So finally, in the final result, you can see I kept that. I kept the movement effects with the 3D effect because I thought it would really pop out the word test. Second, you can see I added some extra effects. First of all, the arrow through the part weak. This is to show the pain people are having from preparation and still getting a bad grade. The same is for the intentional dripping I used, which is for the tears people are having, which also shows preparation and pain in the end. And lastly, you can see the graffiti, you can still see a bit in the background, which is for the preparation people are making for a test week. So for the next part, I first of all used render forest for part 1, 2, and 4. Well, why didn't I use it for part 3? Well, even though I think render forest has a lot of different effects and very high quality, while not being that hard to use, it doesn't have a lot of room for own interpretation. So I used Camtasia to make my own films and my own movies with my own special effects and everything I wanted, while still using the effects of render forest in every cutscene to give the same nostalgic. But let's get back to the actual artwork. This time I want to talk about the techniques I used. First of all, you can see I made the words, I gave it a bit of shading, so a bit of lighting to be exact. This brings it even more to the front. Then you can see the test, that word, I gave it even a bit of 3D effect, which is not exactly how I like it, but it worked out good to bring it even more to the front. Then finally, you can see I used very modern textile. I used a lot of straight lines, which makes it a lot more serious. So now we talked about the techniques, but what do other people think of my artwork? Well, I asked some people who went to Larenberg so they would understand the painting. Well, most of them understood the emotion and could be able to see what I meant with every single item. But they still gave some tips. But none of their tips were about the emotion. It mostly was about some small things like shouldn't there be shading, or why is the second E, why is it a wiggly line while the rest is straight. But now finally, what would I change next time? Well, first of all, I would use low pressure cans and not high pressure cans. High pressure cans have more ink come out, so it leaks a little, so I had to do some parts over. Second of all, I would start earlier, so I had more time to do it over and over.